Yes, you see right. I just bought this car. This is a 1994 520i E34 model sitting there for almost 14 years. Since September 2011 to be exact. And it was left there to rot since then. And yet I still decided to buy this car and give it a try to bring it back to life. In the middle of nowhere, somewhere in Bavaria, I just had the feeling that this car is not as bad as it looks. It was actually owned by the local BMW dealership, as they got the car as a down payment from a customer in exchange for a newer car. Unfortunately, the rear bumper got broken as they drove it into the yard, as it got caught on the guide rail of the roll-up door of the entrance. The condition of the paint was hard to evaluate, as it was covered by dirt and leaves. But except for some clear coat damage on the fender, I couldn't find any damages, like scratches or dents. The interior was in actually pretty good condition, depending on the amount of years it was staying in the nature, of course. The steering wheel had a little bit of mold and was ripped at one place. The wood trim, which is actually the bird's eye metal, is cracked in pretty much every place, especially the shifting knob is in a really bad condition. The biggest problem with the interior was the fact that rodents were living in the car and that they left a lot of presents, including approximately 1 million nuts all over the car. And of course a wonderful smell which was almost unbearable, especially in the trunk where they were living in some boxes. However, luckily I couldn't find any signs of damaged cables. As I was towing it to a public place, I was forced to clean the car at least partly to not get too much attention on it, as I would get a huge fine if I got a ticket for leaving a non-registered car in a public place. So now we can take a look around the car after I cleaned the driver's side. As you can see, the paint regarding the years of sitting unwashed in the outside is pretty good. He will get a real deep clean as soon as he is in driving condition. This 520i is actually an executive model. The executive edition was an option in the model years 1994 and 1995. The mileage of the car was unknown. The owner said he doesn't remember it and the speedometer unfortunately isn't working anymore. Fortunately, I found a service record from BMW in the engine compartment, stating that the last oil change, including the coolant change, was carried out in July 2011, and that the car has actually over 300,000 kilometers. Before doing any work with the car, I decided to do something which many of you will say it's very risky. But before investing any money into such a car, I had to make sure it actually works. The first try didn't go so well. The starter was pretty stuck, but not completely dead. So I decided to do it the old-fashioned professional way, beating it with a hammer to life. It got a little bit better, but it still wasn't there. After taking a break, I tried it again, and voila! The starter works. But the engine didn't fire up. For sure this has to be the fuel pump, right? Or is there simply no gasoline in it? And this is how I did my first huge mistake, filling it up with 10 liters of fresh gasoline. And after that, the car still didn't fire up. So it was definitely the fuel pump. And removing it was now a big mess because I poured in the new gasoline. And after I managed to take it out, I was sure that it's the fuel pump who's causing the problems. Because the connections were actually eaten away, the rubber support was dissolved and clogged the filter. There was no way this thing can even work. So I decided to order a spare one. While waiting for the part to arrive, I will start to do some basic maintenance on the car. If you're interested in this project, then please subscribe and stay tuned for the next part. And join me to see if I can bring this thing back on the road.